What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk. It's Sunday, March 30th, and we're here to discuss RIFC's 2-0 loss in Loudoun. Just a reminder, each episode is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second to subscribe to our channel and click the like button on this video. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you listen on one of those, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find the podcast. One last plug, if you're not already using the Club Collector app, go enter the code TIDETALK25, all lowercase, all one word, to get an exclusive pack added to your collection today. While you're there, also take a look at the top 10 scoring so far season to date. It's a doozy of a list. So cozy up, grab a bear. Let's dive into this one. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Ryan. Ryan, what's going on, buddy?
It should be a fun one. Excited to dive into this game.
Oh, are you though?
No.
I hear you. So we always want to say, if you're here, make sure you are talking to us via the chat. It's always popping. I know misery loves company, and we're here. This is going to be good. It's going to be good because the game wasn't, right?
It's group therapy time, baby. Let's all get in here. Let's all, we're in the trust tree. We can all talk it out. Let's do it.
That's it. I got my beer crack spilled all over the trackpad, so I'm getting all messed up with my clicks right now. This will be good. Hopefully I don't dive out like last week. But let's start with the 11 as we pull it up here on screen. We had Koke and Net, a back three of Nodarse, Yao, and Stoneman. This graphic was all over the place from Fatmov, as they always are. Ibarra, Holstead, Taimu, Sanchez, Chico, Maxi, and JJ rounded out the rest of the 11. What did you make of the lineup when you first saw it, Ryan? I guess we can also talk about, we were at the guild party, did a little live from there. Pretty good turnout. For a Saturday 4 o'clock game, I was hoping to see a little bit more people, but pretty good turnout. Just the vibes kind of changed when play started, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, hey, leading up to the game, I think everyone was excited. I think we all were hoping we were going to put our first 3 points on the board this season. And always great seeing everyone at the guild. It was a good turnout and, great little potluck that was happening there. Got a little party pizza via the hands. So I really appreciate that. But I think first, before we even get to the, who was on the pitch, shout out to the ESPN graphics team. They actually got almost every player correct. There was no double players, no first name, last names on the thing. So I think it just had like one person out of position, but hey, got to celebrate improvement. It's probably the only thing we're going to celebrate today. So, might as well give props while we have it. But I think the real interesting stuff was Noah to the bench. With that, we figured Clay will be right wing back. And then seeing Ibarra and Taimu starting together, I thought that was interesting. We did hear that Haraval was probably not going to be fit to potentially play at all, but definitely not fit to start. So with that note, I think Taimu Ibarra pairing made sense in there. Before, if you ever look back at our live, I was very like, oh, this is going to be the Taimu breakout game. I don't think I was correct on reflection there, but there was nothing, no surprises and nothing I probably would have did differently in the 11 here.
Right. I don't know if the Taimu Ibarra pairing, I get it. It's a little, it's more kind of solid than we've seen, but like it kills me not seeing Clay in the midfield. And I knew once it came out, it was Clay at right wing back, which I get. That's kind of what we had to do. But for me, Taimu's not offering a ton back there. I know people are high on him, because he's a younger player, but he's a passenger for too much of the game, in my opinion. Obviously, I'd love to see Clay back there in the midfield. I'd love to see the Haraval Ibarra pairing again. So hopefully Haraval's fitness level rises and we can kind of see him going back there. But
I got bad news for you about next game. But
yeah, I know. As I'm kind of getting through it, and Andrew kind of sums it up what I'm feeling. Not enough creativity with that pairing. Need more of an offensive threat, more line breaking ability. And when you have Mr. Line Breaker himself playing either center back or right wing back in most games, I think this team's going to struggle to kind of link the midfield to the attack.
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to be an interesting decision of what Kano was going to do at right wing back in this one, because we knew that their biggest attacking threat was a left winger who we saw over and over. So I think I I wasn't against him playing out there because I figured he'd be a much better defensive option against that winger versus Noah. But as we saw, that didn't matter either way. So with that being the case, it probably, having Clay in the midfield is where Clay is the best. So anything we can do to figure out that situation, which we will definitely talk about throughout this episode, would be great.
For sure. Matt Hands adds, Timu is a possession player. We need more physicality in the midfield. I think that'll be Haraval once he's getting back from, obviously fitness and the red card. But, I did want to say I did enjoy seeing Ibarra back in the 11. Nothing too fancy, nothing too special from him in this one. But, he's a player that I think does all that dirty work, does all the stuff that kind of doesn't pile up on stat sheets, and him getting on the pitch more regularly will only help solidify the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing was I've been kind of thinking about this a lot where we have a lot of midfield options. Again, we're going to talk more about this, but it seems like there's a couple like almost like for like swaps. And to me, Temu and Ibarra are you kind of pick one of the two. Because I mean, all we talked about last year was how Ibarra does all the things you don't see. He doesn't rack up the stats. He's kind of invisible throughout the game, but he's kind of piecing it together in a lot of ways. So I think Temu has a bit of that in his game. But then when you play them both together, it's just like, yeah, I think I said before the game, if we play Ibarra and Temu together, it's the most 0-0 draw duo of all time. Obviously, again, was wrong, which is going to be the common theme of this episode. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if one of them, I'll get to that because I know what you're laughing at. If one of them is kind of, if both of them are in the midfield together, then it's definitely going to, one of them will kind of outshine the other because they do the same thing. And I think Ibarra right now, where Temu is developmentally, is a much more polished player, and he's the guy I'd rather see in there, getting the starting minutes and really kind of filling most of the minute sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue, and I don't think this was Kano's like idea for how he wanted this game to be. I think was just Harabaugh injured, and then the decision of who to play at right wing back, which is going to continue to be a problem for a while until at least Rovera is healthy, or we have another center back or some kind of personnel change. I don't know if he had a ton of choice, especially with how Noah played and the kind of problem that Loudoun presented to us.
No, right on. Frank had an absolutely terrible game, and everything was his fault. I just had to read that from Sarah, as the hands might be sitting in different rooms right now and could cause some shoe throwing. But do we want to talk Frank? Do we want to talk a little bit before, like the play before the goal? How do you want to do this, Ryan? Because the Frank conversation, frankly, is going to eat up a lot of this podcast tonight.
I think there's a very specific moment where we'll talk a lot about him. So let's go to the first goal and we'll work through it. We'll work towards it, I will say.
Right. And I'll also say, leading up to the first goal, it was, both teams kind of feeling each other out, half chances either way, but very kind of lackadaisical.
It was so similar to the two games last year. It was just like, just a terrible watch, like a terrible watch.
No real pressure from RIFC when couldn't really sustain any kind of possession at all or string together a couple of passes. But we let them get the better of the possession early on, I think. And that's what kind of led up to this first goal in the 36th minute. So let's take a look at that.
All movement going, speed of play, and not allow Loudoun to step in.
That's too heavy a pass, so Abukura comes on to it. Diving into the box, a low shot, a brilliant move. Abdul Latif Abukura. Goal number 3 on the year and opens his Segerfield account in 2025.
As they start to build out, they kind of lure them in. There's a mistake here, and then stepping right into a one-time pass from Skundrich. And right here, Ibarra has to let Abukura go because it's going to be a foul at the top of the box because he has complete body position, gets a little bit of deception in. Yao does not step quick enough, and a wonderful finish that's dipping down just at the right moment.
So just a moment ago, now the goalkeeper has been tested with a shot on target. The first shot on goal is a goal. It's Abdulatif Abukura.
So Abukura gets the scoring open. Hi, Zach. Thanks for joining in. First off, a lot of blame on this one, a lot to blame along the way. I think you have to start first off with Grant Stillman and picking out an absolute terrible pass or the failure to pick out a pass. Just a terrible ball, very nonchalant on it and very uncommon for him. And I know we're going to talk about the Stoneman and Frank kind of switch up in the back that we've seen of late with Grant playing left center back. So we'll start it there. The Stoneman pass less than ideal. The commentator mentions that Ibarra had to let him go. I also feel like Ibarra could have blown him up and just taken the foul and settled for the free kick. I think that would have been very tactically sound to do. Take the early yellow card. Don't let him in on play. Yao just kind of, I think it's said, poops his pants in the chat over there, but Yao's way too late to react to it. And I still think Koke is going to do a little bit better there. He's way far over. So a lot to dissect in this one, and a lot of blame to kind of divvy out.
Yeah. So before we jump in, because everyone I think at this point is aware that this was a 2-0 game. We're about to talk about these 2 goals that came about 6 minutes apart. We're going to talk a lot of blame about a lot of Renown FC players, but let's just start. Abukura, unbelievable game from him. I think on this goal and the next one, he just was fantastic.
And he was talked about quite a bit in the away end.
Shout out to Adam on that one. I mean, he was nailed on him being a problem for us, and I think we tried to deal with him, but there's so many people to I must say blame, but I mean, first that pass from Grant. I mean, you can't as a center back pass into a congested midfield area. It's just it's almost like soccer 101. And these are those kinds of things that we do. And I just am very confused as a team, because it's things that you're taught as a child to not do. Even if I think he was trying to pass to Ibarra. Ibarra had 3 guys right around him. It was
right.
him in a sea of red. So
and that pass had no pace on it. It was very half hit.
Yeah, and to your point, I actually I've watched it a bunch of times before to get ready to talk about this, but I totally agree with you that Ibarra, take the professional foul there. You're not going to get a red because there's plenty of people behind you, but
right.
I'd rather them get the direct kick there. Yao, I don't think I've ever seen someone fall for a step over as deeply as he falls for it. Then Frank and Grant, they can't get back in time, which is it's fair. We'll talk a bit more about Frank in a second, but and then Koke, he's already shadowing that way. He doesn't react when the ball struck. You kind of almost have to gamble and hope for it. I don't of all the people involved in this play, I blame Koke the least. I mean, the guy's one-on-one, there's zero pressure on the shot. He's in the box. I mean, and it's a good strike. He does get it really tight to the post. So between this one and the other one, would you hope Koke saves one of the 2? I think you hope he gets a pan on it. And I think of the 2, this one's the more likely. But at the end of the day, between the 2 goals, he's the least of the issues, because both times the Abukura was one-on-one with him in the box, 8 yards out. And I mean, I don't favor the goalie in a lot of those situations.
No, the goalie is always the last one you want to blame, but I do think he could have done better there. I think his shot stopping is, a little questionable at times, and I don't understand why he wasn't hugging that post tighter with the way the defense was formatted in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, he was, we were in a possession phase, and they transitioned on us extremely quickly. So he almost might have been. I mean, I think he was very much in his box, ready to go by the time the ball got there. But we were literally in possession, about to transition through Loudoun's press, and all of a sudden we just turned it over in the final third. I mean, you just can't be doing that. So yeah, if we're gonna be doing the blame game on this one, I mean, it's Grant number 1, and I think you said it. Coming from him, very surprising. He's not someone who I think of as someone who makes mistakes like that, and to just kind of laissez-faire, pop it in the midfield, and especially when best case scenario, Ibarra boots it. I don't even know what Ibarra is supposed to do there. Clay's out of position. He's he's tucked super in off that right wing back. So it just a kind of with a lot of our goals, it's a series of errors, which makes them so hard to digest, because it's 5 of you could have done something differently that would have changed the outcome here, and none of you did it.
No, that's pretty well said. I still think the easiest way to stop that goal is Ibarra, just blow him up, take the card.
Yep. And again, if you're going to talk Teemu versus Ibarra, if there's this future state where you're picking one, you would expect Ibarra to be the one to make the professional foul there. He has the experience. That's the kind of stuff the gamesmanship that you expect someone who's been in the league for a bit to learn over time. And for him to, not do it. And again, at the same time, he is staring at Yao, who's a couple feet away. You hope Yao can get a foot in there or do something. And then Yao again falls for the pump fake or the step over I genuinely haven't seen someone fall for a step over that hard in a long time. It was
hook, line,
crazy.
and sinker.
Yeah, if you watch it on YouTube, the highlights, like if you blow it down to like 0.5 speed, his like reaction this way is extremely funny. Funny if you weren't like devastated at what happened.
Right on. Matt Hand says Grant being on the left could have contributed to him making a mistake. He is in a left-sided center back, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later on. But I think that's soccer 101, and I think that was a phrase you kind of brought up in all this, Ryan. When you're clearing a ball, you just simply don't clear it up the middle.
Yeah, especially if you
try
really
to
watch
pick out
it,
a pass, a tight pass to a midfielder in traffic like that in the middle. You know, you're always taught as a defender, you know, get it up the sides and look to advance
if you look back, Sanchez is wide open on the wing. Like he was ready for the ball. That's what is like the weirdest part of it all. It's like he wasn't forced to go middle.
Right. So mental errors, as John says, all around leading up to that first goal. And unfortunately, the goals kept coming. And 5 minutes later, Loudoun were able to find the back of the net again as Abukara had a brace right before the half.
Turns to the fullback. Below. Pass blocked. Throw in to come.
And there's an opportunity there to maybe go back around to the left, but decided to go forward.
Long throw taken. Abukura zips past one. Already won today. Makes it a brace. The Abdulatif Abukura show continues.
Space to take advantage of, just says, I'll take this myself. Abukura comes from the left side. Look at this. Whoop, right in behind, around to Darce. And then that finish, that choice, most players are going to go low to the far post, but he has a little bit of technique here, creativity. You got to love that. And gets enough bend on it to get around Vegas, but still sneak it in that near post area. What a beautiful goal.
Utterly disgusting, too.
Unbelievable.
Fantastic from Abukura. 4 goals now in 4 games this season for him.
So an absolute banger of a finish for Abukura. Just really, really well hit. You also got to give Loudoun a ton of credit for taking that long throw and taking it very quickly, and Abukura coming in, sneaking in behind there. That's just a almost like a training ground-esque play right there. The commentator mentions how most people will go across the goal and go low on that. So the fact that Koke got beat near post so easily, being glued to that near post, is kind of where I was going to with him, you know, his shot stopping. I know he's the last to blame, but he didn't even try to take away the far angle. He left the goal exposed and then still got beat on the near side like that. And again, worldly of a finish. He just kind of bends his knees and like half throws his hands in the air, but doesn't really react at all. But, you know, like Ewan says, the finish was so casual. What a baller. Frank absolutely cooked again on this one. Just kind of a calamity of errors. And I guess it's that whole, you know, getting back to the throw-in as well. Loudoun takes that throw so quick. That's a plus to them because we were not set. We were not ready. And that's just, again, going back to one of the comments from the last goal, being a mental mistake from our defenders.
Yeah, I mean the kind of ball IQ from Abukura to like run behind, and there's no offsides on the throw in if someone didn't know that. So like to run in behind and like drag your defender one-on-one out there was really, really smart by Loudoun. And then yeah, Frank gets absolutely cooked. The Koke thing,
and you notice how Matt Hands won't even say Frank. It was great skill to nutmeg him, and then Quadras, our guy, just Frank up pants.
Matt Hands was going through it at the Guild yesterday. I'll tell you that much, folks.
He was mad.
There was a lot of us that were saying some mean things. But yeah, I mean, the Koke thing, I mean, I don't know if I agree on this one because it is actually one of those things that you're starting to see more players do because like statistically going to that near post, like glove side, like high is like it's actually, if you can pull it off, and not to make this like an Arsenal thing, but Saka has started to do that a lot. And there's actually a very similar goal where he kind of pantses Allison in the exact same way because you're taught that like 90% of the time they're going to go across. And I think you see Koke bend his knees, but at the same time, the minute the guy opens his hips to go up, it's like you're kind of already weighed yourself down a little bit. So again, of the 2 goals, I think you'd hope in aggregate he gets his hand on one of those 2. I think, though, if you're like in isolation of the 2, I think this one's actually the harder one to save.
Well, you know, to Andrew's point, and I totally agree with this in the chat, there's no way that type of an angle of right-footed shot would go far post. Positioning and reaction were both poor from Koke. And I agree with him there. Like I said, he's glued to that post. His left shoulder is almost touching the post on that one. And, he's giving
Actually, I
the
don't
far
agree with
side
that at
angle,
all.
almost saying, oh, he was right at the post.
No, I don't agree that like you see a lot of right-footed guys like go across the goal on that. Like,
But he's tight, so for him to go across the goal, that's going to take a special kind of spin to get it in there. And I think Koke is almost daring him to shoot near post, and he does it with absolute class and just blasts it by him.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's it's a better finish than it is like an error on Koke's part. Yeah. I mean, Hands, I don't know what to say, man. He got pantsed on that like big time. Frank,
Frank did not play well. I just feel that there's too much focus on him when the rest of the defense has been just as bad.
Hey, we've talked about all three center backs, my friend. We've talked about all three of them and the keeper. No one has been immune. So, yeah, I mean, hey, like
Kevin says in the chat too, and I always tend to agree because I'm a big advocate of Lee saves that. Lee gets action on that one. I don't disagree.
I like Jackson a lot, and I think he's a better shot stopper. I just think it's very easy to say that when like we'll never know. We'll never know. And
if you had to go into your crystal ball, does Jackson Lee concede both those goals?
I think he gets his hand on the second one. The first one.
Does he concede both of them?
No, I think he gets. I think one of them goes in. I think he gets his hand on the first one.
All right, I think I would agree with you. At bare minimum, only one of those gets through.
I really think the one high to the hand is like it's kind of crazy just because of what you're taught your entire life.
I know it's crazy, but I also think the way Koke was playing and his positioning on that one, he's daring him to shoot it there because the angle was tight because he's coming in. He's not coming in straight on, so like the left side of the goal is not wide open there, right? He's kind of pitched off to the right. So for him to hit that, he's got to go left foot to go across the goal on that one. To Andrew's point in the chat, he's hitting it right foot. Damn well he's going post side.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think it's even if like he knows it's happening, it's still a really tough one because you're at full extension and you're kind of rooted because you can't jump because you like the threat of like having to dive is still there. Yeah, I mean, again, I'll keep saying this over and over. I'm not changing my mind of like on aggregate, I think one of the two could have been saved. I think the first one is more likely because he's already there. Like he just reacts like half a second too late to it, but he's already almost basically standing on that post. The second one, I just think you don't expect the guy to go high there, especially at like the skill level it takes for someone in this league to do that is like crazy.
You ready for this one? Timmy's question in the chat. Do you know the answer? How many saves did Koke have yesterday?
None.
Big old goose egg. I love Timmy lobbing up those nice questions.
But like they didn't really have any other shots. That's the thing. It's like they had zero big chances. Like I don't know. I don't. There's a lot of Koke talk for. I think there's way bigger problems.
No, there are way bigger problems, but like we can. You always got to start. We'll start from the spine. We're starting at goal, and we'll work our way up as we'll get to the defense in a bit. Yeah, that's it. But that kind of wrapped it up for the first half, which go in trailing 2-0. Pretty upset with kind of some of the positioning and things we saw going on there on both those goals. A lot of blame to be divvied up, as we talked about. Loudoun outpossessed us 54% to 46, outshot us 5-2. They had 2 shots on target, both found the back of the net. We had 1 on target. 0 big chances for either team. Accurate passes were 185 at 84% for Loudoun, 147 at 77 for RIFC. Both teams committed 8 fouls, and Loudoun had 2 corners to our none. Looking at the second half, just very much like you said in last year in those 0-0 draws, it was like we were kind of out of gas. Kano made a couple changes that didn't really seem to stick too well. And, a lot more of the same. We really struggled to link the back to the attack and create chances throughout the second half in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the halftime subs, I mean, it was one of those ones where I think all of us at the Guild were just like, he has to do something. Like, this is just terrible.
Right.
What was interesting, like the last week, those first like 10 minutes or so, it was as if like the ball was like magnets to us, especially up top. Like we were going long to JJ. We were perfectly controlling it from there, stringing multiple passes together. Like there was a lot of continuity going on. This game was the complete opposite.
And just to get it out there and make those subs known, we saw Quizera, Haraval, and Noah all come on at the half.
Yeah. So, but just like in the first half, though, like it was odd. Like it was as if we couldn't string together more than 2 passes. It was like very, very strange. And one of the things, like when I'm watching a game, if this stands out to me, like it's usually either very good, obviously, or very bad. But it's like if one of the teams feels like they have an extra player the whole time, it's not good. And Loudoun much more felt like they had the extra player on the pitch the entire first half. Like we just could never, like it was like anytime one of our guys had the ball, it felt like there was always 5 Loudoun guys around. Like there was never a point where it was like we were in acres of space or it felt like we had the advantage. So that was really odd. Yeah. So bringing on Quizera for Sanchez, I think is, makes sense. Like for swap, I don't think Aldair had the best game.
More of an attacking threat too.
Yep, for sure. And he had a good run with Rwanda, which was great. So bringing on Noah for Okioshi, getting him back into the middle, I thought was great. And obviously much bigger offensive threat than Temu. And I think the most interesting was bringing on Zach Haraval at center back for Frank Nodarse. One, we didn't even know if we heard that Haraval wasn't even practicing all this stuff, but I thought he actually had a really interesting cameo having him back there. Just seeing him on the ball, he's just he's very classy on the ball. I think he does a lot back there, and I think he did help. But obviously we'll get to his impact later. But at the same time, nothing came out of any of this. Like we just still struggled to get any sort of consistent threat on the goal. We ended the half, not to fast forward, but we ended the half with the exact same amount of shots as Loudoun, 3 each. I think only one of them was on target. So it just like we never found a way to manufacture any kind of threat in this game. And I think Andrew said this at some point, but like 5 of 6 halves that we've played this season, we've had 0 threat on goal. And this was just another continuation of that.
No, it's very well said. And as Jason says in the chat, we couldn't even take advantage of the red card situation. You talk about Loudoun looking like or feeling like they had an extra man on the pitch. We literally had an extra man on the pitch for over 20 minutes or just about 20 minutes and could not capitalize, could not really gain any chances. Loudoun actually created some chances while they were down a man too. And then, we did see the numbers get back equalized when Haraval got his red in the 90+5. But that red, I don't know. I don't think it's a red at all. Stoneman's right there. I can get why the ref, might have saw it, but you have another defender there. So I guess if we're going back and talking about Ibarra blowing up that first goal, maybe we have to consider what the ref's name is Matt too. So he had a stinker for all of us Matts on that one. But I guess we have to consider that one could have potentially been a red too, because I think Stoneman was definitely in the vicinity to still challenge on the play. And I don't think that was a clear cut goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, just to their red card. I mean, I think the lasting impression of this game, there's kind of like 2 to me. Is like one is just like the individual errors in our back line, and then the second one is just like we were up a man for 30+ minutes of this game, and you would have never known. And right. I think to me that's almost the worst one. Like the individual errors at center back, 1 can happen, and 2 unfortunately happen a lot with this team. But there's also not much we can do with the personnel available. The fact that we played a man up for 30 minutes and created absolutely nothing, I think is really it's really what this team has kind of been this season. And I think what we really need to figure out as a group. But the Haraval's red card, while I agree with you that I'm not 100% sure it's a red card, I also think like, again, we're talking about another very experienced player, someone who's been in this league for a while. You just shouldn't make that call. Like, who cares? Let him score the 3rd goal. Like, I don't care. Like, we were winning that game at that point anyways, the 94th minute. And now we lose Haraval for the next game where, as we start to bring people back from fitness and we have a little bit different options out there, we might have been able to, maybe he was actually feeling fit enough to start next game or something like that. So I just think losing him completely now because he didn't want to give up a 3rd goal.
Far worse.
Was that far worse? Yeah, the trade out there is crazy. So, yeah, it was just one of those games where like lack of professionalism, especially from 3 of our more senior players. I mean, Ibarra, Haraval, and then Stoneman, like those are in Yao, like those are all players who like have been in this league for a while now. Ibarra, not as much, but you just wouldn't expect that from them. And it's just a really black mark on kind of all the things that we expected going into this season.
I definitely agree with you. And I know this is one that we'll always kind of go back and forth about. And we're going to talk about the roster a bit more in depth later. But when Noah came on, you talked about how you liked seeing him centrally. Would you have liked seeing him out at wing back and getting Craig back in the middle? Clay, I'm sorry.
I would love to
Club
see
collector on the mind.
I would love to see Craig play center mid. I think he would really dictate in there. I think it's interesting. Again, I think Clay's physicality was something that they, especially with Abukura still on, like didn't want to give up on. He was definitely quieter in the second half, but yeah, we'll talk a bit more about Noah, especially going forward. I do think he brings a lot when he does play more in the middle. I think he does better as that second striker. And I also think of the wings, I think he's significantly better as a left wing back, which is another problem because all we have are left wing backs right now. So, yeah, I like the vision. We saw Maxi dropping a bit deeper with Noah playing as the more advanced of the midfield, but we can talk about how these little things all were interesting, but absolutely none of it worked. So.
Right on. We've got a question in the chat. What is the status of Danny Rivera? Do you guys know if he will be able to help the defense when healthy? I don't know much about him. It's an interesting one. We don't know much about the injury, but we also know that he was signed predating the Stephen Turnbull departure, and we'll talk Turnbull as it'll come up in the RIFC in 3 later. But I think he was very much signed knowing Turnbull was on the way out. I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is Maxi really being a catalyst in the midfield, and we got to get him on the ball as much as possible. But I'm going to save that take for as we get into kind of the roster construction. But anyone who can play in their natural position is right wing back. To have them healthy and have them on the pitch is only going to benefit this team.
Yeah, I mean, right now we don't have
final stats for this one.
Right wing back.
We've talked about how thin the squad is, and it's going to continue to come up, especially when these errors are made with guys out of position. But final stats for this one: RIFC outpossessed Loudoun 55 to 45%. 8 total shots for Loudoun, 5 for RIFC. Both teams had 2 on target. 0 big chances for each team. I don't know how they don't deem that throwing a big chance via the algorithms. But 342 accurate passes.
Scan a center back, so he had to do a lot of work. Frank didn't make it hard for him, but he had to do a lot of work.
It's pretty big. 342 accurate passes at 80% for RIFC, 266 at 77 for Loudoun. Loudoun committed 14 fouls, 18 for RIFC, 3 corners for Loudoun, and 2 for RIFC. So a very tough watch from kickoff to final whistle, especially the second half, being a man up for so long and not being able to really generate any chances. Just a tough one to get going on.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of looking at this, and we're about to probably go really big picture here, but this is the second time in 3 games we've created 0 big chances. We've only scored 1 goal in 3 games from a Rhode Island FC player. That is from the team that was as hot as you ever could be throughout the playoffs and at the end of the season too. It wasn't a flash in the pan. We were good for a while. You just can't, especially with the players that we have available. You sign a Max Rodriguez, you got JJ, you have Chico, you have Quizera, you have Noah Fuson. It's just really, really tough look. And there's a lot to figure out here, because beginning of last season, we just kept saying, oh, it's chemistry. But at this point, I don't know if we can still blame chemistry for a team that is mostly still the same guys who have played together for over a year now.
That's pretty well said. Do you want to do socials or do you want to do slides first?
Let's do socials first because they're more game and the slides are a little more big picture. So.
All right. So we'll start over on the Defiant 1636 Discord. So this will kind of be a mismatch of RIFC in 3 and Good, Bad, and the Ugly. People started filling in the Good, Bad, and the Uglies and RIFC in 3s before we could even, post anything in the chat. So we appreciate you sickos that listen to the podcast. Yeah. So we'll start with in the Defiant 1636 Discord. Jim said early, but RIFC in 3, Dad's 90s camcorder, FFS, ESPN Plus, buy a camera or get some bandwidth. It's always an issue with these broadcasts. It just never gets, any better. Andrew Gomes had RIFC in 3, Glue Factory Blues. Andrew Hill had probably deserved worse. Rafael Santos had good, nothing, bad. Kano's mid-game decision. I still trust him, though, 100%. Ugly. He has 2 uglies. 1, ineffective transition from defense to attack. 2, lack of off-the-ball movement to create space. And 3, poor build-up plays. So I'm with him on all 3 of those. Leo had Maxi standing up for his teammates as is good, i.e. pushing Mines away when he was standing over JJ. Bad on-ball decision-making. I'm fully convinced I heard Kano scream forward at the players right before the bad turnover for the first goal. Ugly defenders individually getting worked with ease, and his RF3 is listless in Loudoun. Taris had, was there any good? Bad, the result. Ugly, another bad early season effort. RIFC in 3, season starts May 3rd. This is a common one we've heard, and I'm going to share my take on that for a little bit later because I don't like it, and I'm not coming at you, Taris. It's just I've got a lot of views on that one as well. But Tyler Hatch had his 3, I'm not worried. His good was 2 league games left on the road trip. Bad, 2 league games left on the road trip. Ugly, passing to ghosts out there. Our guy Patrick McKenna had RIFC in 3. We missed Turnbull? ? We might be starting to. Quadros had the famous gift of the dogs.
Can we pause on that?
Yeah.
So with that one, I think we missed Turnbull of beginning of last season. I don't know if we missed the current Turnbull because, as you may have noticed, he's not playing for Birmingham either right now.
He's struggling to get on there as well, and maybe we're missing Rivera without really knowing it yet.
We're missing something.
We're missing something.
We're missing goals.
Andrew Quadros had his RFC in 3, the dog drinking his coffee in the flaming office. This is fine. Our guy Timmy had good, no, bad center back performances and lack of depth or other options at this position. Ugly, 0 ideas or creativity in possession. RAFC in 3. We're in 10th. Timmy, absolutely killing it. Timmy also threw a question in there, so we'll kick it to you, Ryan. Love to hear any speculation or thoughts on you guys have why we switched Stoneman and Odarce for the last 2 matches. Feels like it's bringing out for the worst of them. You want to save that for the slides?
I have nothing in the slides on that. I literally have no fucking clue. I have no fucking clue why we did it.
So let's talk that because it seems like both guys are really struggling with the switch. We know Grant's not left-footed. We did some capital J journalism research on that one.
You know what's funny? When he fucked that pass up with his right foot, I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, man. But,
I genuinely have, 0 clue why Kano did that. And they both haven't looked good for 2 straight games. I just don't. I have 0 idea.
Do you think it could be
sorry, that's a shitty answer.
Switch him back and, yeah.
What if could you imagine though if we just roll out the same team next week, switch the 2 of them, and it just all goes swimmingly, and it's just like, wow, what a beautiful day.
That would be perfect.
I don't. To be clear, I don't think that's the full issue, but I don't know. I'd probably try it next week.
Could be part of it. Could be part of it. Andrew Quadros has good. Team continues to show fight until the final whistle, even when they aren't playing well. Did they? I know Maxi did, but did everyone else? I'm not really sure.
I don't think they're downing tools or anything like that. I just I don't know. There was never a point where I was like, we're definitely gonna score.
Right. Andrew's bad was 5 of the 6 halves of soccer so far this season. His ugly was looking like we were the team down a man after Loudoun picking up a red. That was definitely felt. Mike Howard had his RAFC in 3 early 2024 returns. Good, JJ's beautiful head. Bad, looked hopeless after late subs, even when a man up, and his ugly was too afraid to shoot, too disorganized to pass. Maybe the top RAFC in 3 with Matt Hands. Stop scapegoating Frank. He's really defensive about this. If you see Matt Hands Saturday at the Oakland watch party, give him a hug. All right, just give him a hug. He loves hugs anyway. His good was Maxi's leadership. His bad is midfield balance is off. Ugly, all 3 center backs need competition for places. Otto's RIFC in 3 was a reply to Matt's, Frank is finished. And the emoji reactions in the Discord are absolutely killer on this one, which Matt definitely fired back. He hasn't been his usual self to start the year for sure. We need more competition for everyone in the back line. So make sure you look out for Timmy's player ratings. I'm sure Timmy will go pretty ham on Frank just to kind of see what goes on with Matt. As Kevin says in the chat, Hands is a big ball of emotion right now. And
I just like picture Hands like sitting there with like horchata. He's like learning Duolingo Spanish so he could like
I think it's a
DM
Cuba
Frank.
Libre.
Was that?
Cuba Libre.
Oh yeah. He's like DMing Frank. He's like, hey man, it's okay. You're gonna get back to your full self.
That's it. All right. So we'll head on over to Twitter for some of our other responses. We had RIFC in 3, attack on football. Total horseshit. Our good friend Craig from RIF Club Collector. What was that? The Outsider, Evan, lifeless dog shit. And Santi at Santi_NC1. Oh, hell nah. So some very negative takes along there. And on Facebook, Dawn Donnelly Poole, who made the trip to Loudoun for this one, had where's the defense? Santiago Restrepo had lack of effort and wake up defense. We also had Don Bigda with effing shoot it. Lot of different characters in there, so that was pretty good. And then our friend Don Lindbergh had the sophomore jinx and said it was the nicest thing he could think of. Susan also had the May 3rd, please. And that's what we got for the socials. So thank you to everyone who wrote in. I see it does feel like we get more of these people writing in when we lose, and it wasn't all super bashing. So pretty good as well. But do you have a good, bad, and the ugly from this one, Ryan?
My good, I did like what I saw. I am someone who was over the moon when we signed Maxi Rodriguez. I was very excited about him and what he could bring to this team. And I think this was his best game so far, maybe. You're really seeing him grow into the team. I mean, there's points where he was dropping between the center backs to try to pick up the ball and try to get on the ball. And he's not afraid to. Was that?
He was dropping deep.
Dropping super deep. And like, you saw him, getting into players. You saw him trying to fire up his teammates. So, it's obviously not clicking yet. But I'm excited to see what he potentially can do. My bad, I don't know. I have mostly uglies, just like the center back performance. Like it's just the continuation of the individual errors. Just like has to stop. And then the biggest one is like the being up a man and just you never know. I can't reiterate how big of an indictment I feel like that is on like the way we're currently sitting. And I think Timmy said it, like we're in 10th place. Like everyone likes to shit on Hartford. Like we are 1 point away from Hartford and like, we have the same goal differential. We've scored 1 goal from an RIFC player this season in 3 games. Like we are not far away from everyone's favorite punching bag down the street. So we just need to wake up. And this comes to me too. Like I'm someone who predicted 9 points. We're gonna win the division. Like we're gonna win the player show. I was Mr. fucking optimist going into the season, and to be clear, I still am very optimistic about this team's long-term potential. But like there are clear issues that we need to figure out. We're about to talk about some more, and I just really hope we can start to at least experiment and try things. And to be clear, I don't think we're not experimenting, but experiment in a more focused way.
Yeah, well said. I'm very much with you on the bad and the ugly, and my good is very similar. It's Maxi. I think his leadership, you see why he was club captain at DCFC, and he's really out there. He's working the refs on every call, no matter,
something I think we talked about missing last season a lot was like we didn't have someone out on the pitch that could do that.
I know I've said it on here before. I'm not a big fan of keeper captains. I always like having an outfield player that can interact with the ref. And, I think he does buy a couple calls that way. You might see, a 50-50 challenge that maybe the ref blows a whistle on because he knows he's going to have to deal with Maxi again. And I think we saw it a couple times Saturday. So I just love having that player that's always going to be in the ref's ear with it and can kind of walk that fine line of not getting a yellow card from all the dissent. And the fact that he's not a captain at RIFC and they're letting him talk as much as he is shows you, kind of the character and the clout he's developed within the league. And, refs, if he's complaining, refs actually take the time to listen to him too.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things about bringing in like a veteran leader who's been in this league for a while, who's an all-league player. I mean, they command respect, and and for everything you hear about him off the pitch, like he's just like a class act. So you'd think the refs also probably have a very high opinion of him. So yeah, any working of the refs he can do, I am all for it. Bonus maxi reasons to sign him. So
absolutely. All right, guys, you ready for slides?
Woohoo!
Ryan's so excited.
I am. First slides of the season. I'm nervous. Alrighty, folks, welcome to Tide Talk. And if you are listening on the podcast, this is a great time to pause it, jump on the YouTubes. You can get right back to it, but I will try.
And if you're watching on the YouTube and you haven't already clicked that thumbs up button, now's a great time to do that as well.
Yeah, honestly, like we say that a lot. It literally does help the episode, so we would really appreciate that. All right, so it's funny. I don't think Hans is going to come out of this like feeling too bad. I'm just going to say this now, Timmy. I know you just brought it up, but so one of the big things, and it got brought up in a couple people's RIF season 3, is that we kind of have a weird squad. We have a lot of injuries right now. We play in a formation that like is hard to kind of fit who we currently have in there, right? So at the top, you're going to see the positions here, and it has 3 center backs, 2 wing backs, 3 central midfielders, and 2 forwards. That's the formation that we traditionally play. As you'll see here, we basically have when you look at like players who are either healthy or like in consideration. So no offense to Kevin Vang and Dewhurst, like I don't consider them as in consideration. There's basically 15 players here, and as you can see, we have the majority of the squad is central midfielders, and then 2 wing backs who are left-footed and play left wing, and we have 3 center backs for 3 positions. So at the end of the day, like this is causing us to have like some pretty severe issues here. Number one, we just don't have a natural right wing back until Rivera is back. And the fact that we only have one guy who is a natural at that one position is really tough moving forward. It's just, then like I just said, we have 3 fit CBs for 3 positions. Someone brought it up earlier, but like the fact that there's absolutely 0 competition, like those guys went out there and they've been putting in some very shaky performances, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it besides take Zach Harabow out of midfield, take Clay Holstead out of midfield. That's the only option we have right now, because at the end of the day, we only really have one other like senior center back, even if everybody's healthy, to rotate in. So there's just no competition there. And this is all leading to, like I just said, playing our best options out of position. We are playing Clay at wing back or at center back. We're playing Noah at wing back a lot. Harabow is now, he barely has played in midfield this season. The other option too, the issue too, is there's no plan B. We're basically playing our 2 strikers, and the third striker, half striker, is playing wing back. He's playing all over the place, trying to just fill in gaps. So just the way this squad has been built this season, it's super heavy and concentrated in one area. So just moving into this, actually, let me pause. Matt, any thoughts so far?
No, I'm totally with you.
I'm the first slides of the year. I'm all hot and bothered.
You're all excited. You're skipping around. I wish your Audi could see what your innie has done here. You'd be super proud. But like you said, we did see that plug and play, and I think the biggest part that always sticks with me is there's no plan B with this formation. Kano's going to stick with it. He's going to run with it. I think right now it would make sense to go with the 4-back system just because of the personnel that we have. Make one of those center backs earn it. Make one of them sit out, fight a little bit harder. But the lack of a plan B, or like even chasing a game like that, and you pulled off a center back, why not shift the formation and put another player in the midfield where you're clearly getting overrun? So the biggest piece for me out of this is that lack of the plan B.
Yep. Absolutely. So to combat kind of the current ills of what we've been seeing, so some ideas here. Number one, I think we got to get JJ and Noah back together. Here's the data I have pulled up. So right now, JJ, like looking at the advanced stats, he's actually having like quite a season. He and again, I'm just going to preface everything. This is absolutely very small sample size, but JJ is averaging almost 4.5 shots per 90. He's averaging 0.58 expected goals per game. He's averaging 0.32 expected assists every game. He's actually number 3 in the league in this stat called goals added, which shout out to the American soccer analysis team that pulls that up. So he's having a very strong season. Chico, on the other hand, is averaging only 1 shot per 90. He's averaging 0.2 expected goals per 90 and 0.37 expected assists. So he's not having a lot of impact in there. And I think we saw a little bit of this yesterday. There was a point where I think someone crossed in the ball. He had a free header on goal. And instead of heading it towards goal, he tried to go back across to JJ, who was like triple marked. So we're not seeing like a prolific version of this. And in that goals added stat I just mentioned, so JJ, he's like I said, like third in the league or first in the league with 1.05. Chico's at 0.07. Like he's just not bringing anything here. And then on the other hand, like Noah, he's being asked to do all these different things. He's playing right wing back, which we really never saw him last year. I think one thing when we talk about Noah being like he had a couple good performances at wing back, they were usually on the left. So right wing back's a little bit foreign to him in terms of his impact. And currently he only has about 0.07 expected assists per 90. And that's from the Golden Playmaker, someone who was the leader in assists last year. So why am I saying get JJ and Noah back together? From August last year, when Noah was deployed as a forward or like a central attacking midfielder, he had 3 goals and 4 assists. JJ from August, when he played with Noah, he had 10 goals and 3 assists. Obviously, you know, a lot of bias towards those late games where he had, not that Noah was the reason he had those hat tricks, but I think as a pairing, it makes sense. When JJ was really prolific in Tampa, he was working with kind of that more shifty person around him in Cal Jennings down there. So I think he's used to playing with that more, you know, kind of attacking midfielder style in the second striker pairing. I think that could bring the best out of him. Next up, keep Clay Holstead in midfield. We got to get him back in there. I think he provides so much that is hard to quantify in there. He covers so much ground. He's constantly breaking up play and pressing for us. And I think without his impact in there, and especially without Haribo in there, there's just a deep lack of athleticism that we're seeing teams just like, it's just a cavern in the midfield. And then finally, give ourselves options. Right now, the way we're deploying our team, there's nothing off the bench that can change games. So all this to say, like, yeah. So all this to say, like, I really think we need to lean into our resources. So on that first slide, you saw that we have just an absolute, like, we're overrun with midfielders. So we got to do something about this. So Matt, I actually laughed because I have not shared these slides with you, but I agree that we should try a back 4 here. I think using Quezera at the right wing, not right wing back, but right wing where he plays for Rwanda, having JJ as a center point with Noah as the left winger, where we've seen Noah do a lot of damage in that kind of left wing channel, a midfield trio of a Maxi, Holstad, and either Teemu or Ibarra. I do think over time I would like to see Haribo in there, but right now, especially next game, one of those two. Sanchez has played left back before for Sacramento. You have a Stoneman or Yao in midfield, and then you can have Frank as kind of that more the way that he played wing back in the past, where he's kind of hanging back. He's more of a defensive fullback there. The big benefits to this, Chico is available to change games. We have way more firepower up the pitch. Again, Chico, Brito, Amos, Ibarra, or Teemu, they're all available without needing to completely blow up the formation and have someone plugging and playing. And then, hey, if we do want to switch to a back 3, if we're protecting a lead or adding attackers, like, we can always do that. Like, there's ways to adjust this. But at the end of the day, I think this allows us to put more of our midfielders on the pitch, but also in places that they're more comfortable.
I think it's really well said. I think it's a great formation too. You know, I looked at how do you do it with 3-5-2, and there's really no way, because I think it would have been Hands in our chat that came up with a 3-5-2 and essentially had I don't know if it was Teemu or Haribo and Maxi, you know, kind of holding, but you got to get Clay in there. I think if it's in the holding spots in the 3-5-2, if you have a pivot of Clay and Maxi, it's fine, and you have Noah be the, you know, the one getting forward. But who else do you put at right wing back now? That's the conundrum. So, you know, with using the healthy defenders that you have here in this formation, and Chico really not providing anything off the get, I think this is kind of the best case of a bad scenario right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something different. It's trying something. And the hope is that you can utilize Maxi and Clay, like, to really, like, they're both, like, I think Maxi's physicality is actually something that's a bit underrated. Like, he puts in a shift out there, and I think the two of them can really go in there. And yeah, I think someone mentioned Quezera needs to be on the left. He actually plays right wing for Rwanda, and I actually think it will alleviate some of the defensive responsibility that he has.
Well, you know, Jason was the one that said this, and I actually do kind of agree with him because of the defensive responsibility. If you have Frank, you know, kind of behind you, I think Frank's gonna get caught out playing it in a back four a little bit more because he's gonna chase up like that golden retriever with the ball every now and then. So I'd kind of want Noah, who's a little bit more used to tracking back, kind of working on that same flank.
Well, the other side of this though is you do get Clay, who's over there, who can range that way too. So
True.
yeah, I mean, I didn't do the whole in possession, out of position thing, but to me, you just kind of could shift to a back three when you're in possession, and Sanchez kind of pops in the midfield. You get Maxi that moves towards more of that second striker. But yeah, I mean, Kano says it all the time, like the formation is just like where you put people on the team sheet. However, this I think does get people more into the natural places that they're used to playing on the pitch. And then also leans into like the depth that we have in the midfield and putting those players where they will actually feel comfortable too. So,
right. But and to his point of the formation is where you put people on a team sheet. We're very much seeing that play out in real time, though. It's
that's
not
the
like
thing. Yes.
I mean, obviously the different websites or ESPN or Flop Mob, or whatever, put their formations out differently. But when you follow this team week in and week out and see that 11 and know what it means with who's here, it's a very rigid, here are your roles, here are your positions, you're in it, and there's really no deviation from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and the only time you almost see deviation is like yesterday with that. This is not the reason the goal was scored, but like Clay was like super sucked into the midfield when he was playing right wing back, and like that's kind of where they almost broke on us, was in that channel over there. I don't think that's what it was, but yeah, I don't know. There's some interesting comments in the chat of like Noah and Maxi are good in the same position. I half agree. I definitely think they can play each other. I would love to see a world where you kind of almost have JJ, Noah, and Maxi. The way almost we deployed it in Charleston, where we had 2 10s and then Chico was up there. I actually think them playing around JJ would be very interesting because I think it's just JJ just brings such a different dynamic, especially with the hold up play. And you have
I do like Maxi sitting a little deeper than Noah, though.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I think has been interesting with the way Maxi's signing has been talked about is like only as if he's like a number 10, like attacking midfielder. He's actually someone who's very prolific with like starting deep attacks. He's great.
He's very box to box,
super box to box. And I think we've only talked about him as if he's like a creative number 10, where he's actually like not that he's not creative at all, but he's not like that, like
stereotypical number 10.
Yeah, he like puts in the hard shift. He's someone, again, like we saw yesterday, he will drop back all the way to the center backs to pick up the ball. He wants to be on it, and he can start attacks and dictate play. He's also not afraid to put in a tackle. So he doesn't need to be playing that advanced role. Whereas I think Noah's a little more of that kind of creative.
Right.
I mean, he played striker most of his career, so he's much more like
and to be fair, when he's been in the 10 role, it's very much a false 9, sitting a little bit tucked in behind JJ rather than the creative 10.
Yeah, the reason I really like the Noah JJ pairing is that it allows JJ to be the attacker, the more attack minded of the two, and Noah's more the assist minded. Whereas I find that when we play JJ and Chico together, JJ almost like takes on the like creator role, which I think he's good at it, but I think we saw at the end of the season last year when JJ's number one idea is to score goals and number one like job is score goals. He's significantly better at that. And that's what we need right now. So I would like to see what we can do with JJ, kind of given the like mission of like, you're the goal scorer, go score the goals. Everyone else will worry about the creation and the play from there.
That's well said. I prefer not to speak. I prefer not to speak about the context of it, but one of my favorite managers of all time, the special one, Jose Mourinho. He called his perfect midfielder an 8.5, and I think Maxi is that 8.5 as far as Mourinho's definition of it, where he can track back, he can win balls, he can lead the attack and break lines from it. Just a real kind of workhorse who does everything from stopping plays to creating plays in the midfield.
Yeah, and just to Timmy's point, I specifically did not put the keeper situation in this graphic. There will be a goalie in goal. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, interesting. I hope Mr. Paulie is watching this one. Paul, if you're watching, hey, buddy.
Hey,
or listening.
Will Myers, debut. I'm just kidding. I like Ewan's idea. Let's hit up Loudoun for a trade. They have Chico and we can take Abukora. I would happily take that deal. I don't think they would.
I think they would prefer not to speak to that one.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
this is another one too. Like to Jason's point, like we could use Noah as a super sub. Yes, but like he racked up the majority of his stats starting last year. The games he started is where he got the majority of his 10 assists. So the person I think who really took that role on was Joe Brito, who I still think could have that role. But I think it's what's not odd, but like the way this team is stacked, it's like all of our super subs right now are all attacking midfielders, and we're putting them all over the place. We got Joe Brito, we got Amos. Sooner than later, we'll have Isaac Inking. Like they're all a very similar player, and you can only put them in so many places on the pitch before they're Amos has been coming in at right wing back. Like I don't know. That's where he's going to be the most effective. So,
Harival had that streak where he was scoring all those goals last season. Yeah, subbing at center back this year.
Yeah, I mean, I someone has mentioned this earlier. Like, I think that's the thing that's been really odd about this season, and part of it's due to injury, but also I think part of it's like just squad construction is like, our versatility is absolutely a strength, but it's also like I think it's kind of a detriment right now because we're chopping and changing. Like we're not
so many undefined roles right now.
So many undefined roles, and usually it's unfortunately leaning on people's versatility to put them in a position that's not their best position. So we're making other parts of our team weaker to try to at least like not break at different positions. So I worry, hopefully we get healthy enough in certain areas that this is behind us. But again, I think with the way the roster's stacked up, we got to like lean into what we have, and what we have is a shitload of midfielders. So let's put them out there and again, like using a right wing back right now when we literally don't have a single healthy right wing back, I just don't find to be the path forward.
Right. I'm with you. I think that's why the back four makes sense now. Do I think we'll see it? Absolutely not.
Nope.
Do I think this has a FIFA Ultimate Team kind of feel to it right now? Totally. Like it's just kind of square peg round hole everywhere all around. But nicely done on the slides, my friend. I know you enjoyed it.
I was laughing when you were like back four. I was like, I haven't shown you these slides yet, so I love that we're on the same page.
To be fair, I first saw this slide when it showed up on the screen, so we're not that advanced that we actually talk about this ahead of time.
Do you guys like that I did the yellow kit to, because I know we're going to be on the road next game. I was really, cooking there.
Chef's kiss. But all right, buddy, that'll we'll kind of wrap it up from there. Just a disappointing one. One more take I do want to share on this is we get a lot of people saying, "Oh, the season doesn't start till May 3rd." The season started March 15th. That is not a right take. I think if you were to ask any player to a man, they would disagree with that 100%. The season started March 15th in Charleston. If you're saying that the season does not start till May 3rd, you're discounting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches, 5 league matches, and a cup match in there. So, I don't think that's fair. I think a lot of things kind of from the club are being treated as the season starts May 3rd. And you've heard, the club's not doing X, Y, or Z because they're really working on getting the stadium ready and getting the stadium, ready for launch. But there's 6 games being played before that. And to throw away that from a play perspective is not something any of the players would do. It's not something that Kana would do. And I think it's just kind of a really low level take. So let's temper those bridges a little bit. Let's kind of put some expectation on this team that made the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, we didn't win till 9 matches in last season once Ryan Healy decided to join RIFC Nation at the time. But hopefully things can turn around and get going a little bit better forward. But the season has started. It's been going on for, almost a month now. It's time to temper those takes and really get in. And, we got to have some accountability. We got to have some, talking critically about this team because it's in a weird spot with the roster. It's in a weird spot with, who's coming in, how game plans are being executed, but it's got to improve. And obviously we want it to improve before May 3rd. We want to see a win in the home opener, but things are being played, games are being played, and those are still very, very important to this season and this team's success this season.
Do you think you're going to do you think you have to make a co-host swap to try to get some good juju for the team?
I tell you what, I would never bring Matt hands on after that one, though. Not tonight.
No, I want to really reiterate, because we've talked offline a lot about this. I couldn't agree more that the feeling of it starts May 3rd, I genuinely find almost insulting to the team and the players who are going out there and, going through preseason, going through all the hard work.
That's probably a better way of saying it than I did. So thank you for that.
No, I just really disagree with the word, like the framing of that. Like, there's again, and the other thing I don't like is, hey, last year we sucked a bit, like heading into the season, like the beginning of the season. It's fine. Like, it's totally cool to just play out seasons that way. It always works out at the end. Points are points. Like, they count just as much now as they do in
They're at a
October.
premium.
Points are at a premium always. Like, in not taking advantage of these games, especially with someone like a Loudoun who is going to be pushing for potentially a home playoff spot at this point. They're looking good. Someone like a Phoenix, who I don't think is going to be a very good team, and we're going to really look back at the end of the season saying, "Shit, those were really 3 points dropped." Charleston away to start the season, sure, that was a tough game, but at the end of the day, like, we shouldn't just be assuming that the team can turn it on come playoff time or come towards the end of the season, because what we need to be doing every single week is putting ourselves in the best position to win, and with that, the best position to have home playoffs, and to compete for the title. You don't win points by, oh, we sucked at the beginning of the season, we learned a lot of lessons.
Right.
Don't it works out just the same. Like, it's better to win games. That's what we want to do, is win and grow and learn, obviously. But yeah, I couldn't agree more that the May 3rd kind of thing is
we'll call it the May 3rd narrative.
May 3rd narrative
it's
is bothering the shit out of me as well. I've said it a lot to a lot of people. Because it just discounts what the team is doing, and it just like takes almost the importance of these games, like, as if they don't matter. Like, they matter very, very much.
It's a defeatist mindset, like, right from the get, and it's not the right thing. I mean, you also look at you have the Westchester game in that mix, which is the USL Jägermeister Cup, and you lose one game in that pool, and you're most likely not advancing. So, like, to say that the season doesn't start with that game already going on and being kind of crucial, and I hope we can take the cup seriously. I hope we can put a really good effort into the cup. You almost have to win every game in your pool the way it's structured. So that Pittsburgh game is going to be absolutely massive. Hopefully we get to that point. So hopefully it's, we took Westchester seriously, and we take all those other teams seriously, and that's how we move on from there. So there's a lot to play for before May 3rd.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah, good. All right, we'll end it there though. But any final thoughts you want to share before we call this one quits?
No, I mean, I hope, obviously in these games, and I think it's been brought up by a lot of people that this might have been one of the worst performances that we've ever seen this
Was it
club.
the worst?
I don't think it's the worst, but it's up there. It's like shockingly up there. And for a
that
team
second half in Tampa is still kind of rings true.
Second half in Tampa, Detroit at home, India away. For other reasons, there was a couple that people brought up, but where was I going with that? For a team that came in with, like, obviously very high expectations and ones that they earned last year, and then to go on and sign someone like a Maxi and open a new stadium, and they're really pushing forward. I just think it's, at this point, it's back to basics, tighten up, and just get 3 points on the board. Just get 3 points on the board. It's the team that can do it, and these are times that everyone's a little fired up. Everyone is a little bit upset with the team because we all had those same expectations, and we have to stick together as a fan base. We have to keep Colorado Springs. Great. Thank you, Matt Hans. I was definitely like missing a large one in my brain. I couldn't remember. I think I just forgot that game happened. But yeah, at the end of the day, we have to stick together and support these guys. And unfortunately, we're not going to see them until a lot of us see them in Westchester. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks, they can start to string some good ideas together that gets some points on the board.
Right on. Well, I do hate the May 3rd narrative. I do think May 3rd will very much help with the fan base and kind of getting us in the stadium. It's going to be the summer of RIFC.
I say summer of RIFC is going to be unbelievable.
Right. So it's going to be the summer of RIFC in Pawtucket. So, go into all those matches, just kind of living it week in and week out, as we are pretty much home for the entire summer. It'll just be a blast. So,
yeah.
Taking that all in will be surreal, but I want us to be in a good position when we get there, and that's the kind of most important piece. But
yeah, and speaking of Tidewater in the summer of RIFC, shout out to everyone who came on the Defiance bike test this weekend. Super fun. There was about 20-25 of us that went, and really appreciate everyone putting in the effort on a kind of dreary Saturday morning to just test it out. But it's gonna be really cool. And if you weren't able to go on the test bike ride, definitely keep your eye out for the Defiance Bike Bus. I think it's going to be a really cool way to get the games. It's going to be a lot of energy being brought through the streets of Providence and into Pawtucket.
No, right on. Big shout out to our guy, Pat McKenna.
Yeah,
he loves it.
He's been a lot of work, and I know Jerica did as well. Yeah.
Yep. So also, if you are doing that, make sure you check out Timmy's bike seat and ask him all about that. It's a whole project.
I mean, it's a lack of a bike seat. I think he literally said Kana would be proud because we have to suffer. That's Timmy's. Yeah, we'll see his player ratings tomorrow before I give a full diagnosis on Timmy. But
we'll see how he suffers. But a lot of you stayed with us throughout this one. So if you haven't already, make sure you click that like button, hit the thumbs up on this video. But that'll wrap things up for this one. Remember, Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily social media content. Click the link in this episode description to follow all of our accounts at Tide Talk RI on pretty much every social media platform. I've been your host, Matt, for my good friend Ryan. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the tide.
Up the tide.